I never thought I'd be sitting here, writing something like this, but I guess life has a way of throwing punches when you least expect it. My name's Dave, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for almost 10 years. We were that couple everyone envied. Good job, nice house, a dog that loved us more than anything, and a life that looked perfect from the outside. I honestly thought she loved me, or at least I wanted to believe she did. The thing is, I started noticing small things. Not obvious ones, but enough to gnaw at me. She'd get defensive when I asked about her plans after work, and she became oddly secretive, stashing her phone, keeping her emails hidden. But I brushed it off, convincing myself I was paranoid. Maybe it was just work stress or her needing her space. Then came the anniversary dinner. We planned this for months. An expensive restaurant, the best wine, the kind of night you tell yourself is forever. I remember the candlelight flickering, casting shadows on her face, making her look more beautiful than ever. We toasted, kissed, laughed a little. I felt that warm, comfortable feeling until I looked at her phone just. Out of habit, I saw the text. No, not just a text. It was a string of messages between her and Mark, our neighbor. Mark is a decent guy, a little too friendly sometimes, but I never suspected anything until that night. The messages weren't just friendly. They were intimate, flirty, suggestive, downright cheating. They talked about plans to meet up soon and how much she missed him during the day. My stomach lurched like a punch to the gut. I froze, my hands trembling, the phone slipping from my fingers onto the table. Lisa's eyes darted to me, her face went pale. "I think you should see this," I managed, voice shaking. She snatched the phone from the table, her face twisting into a mask of guilt and panic. She tried to reach for it, but I pulled it back. "How long? How many times? Tell me," I demanded, voice rising. Her lips trembled, she looked like she was about to cry, but I saw something else, something colder, more calculated. "I didn't mean for you to find out like this," she whispered, voice barely audible. "It was a mistake, it's just, I didn't know how to tell you." I felt my world tilt. The betrayal hit harder than I thought possible. All those nights I worked late, all the moments I dismissed her secretive glances. Turns out, she'd been lying straight to my face for over a year. That's a long time to be deceived. I could almost taste the metallic bitterness at the back of my throat, and I swear my palms were slick with sweat. I wanted to scream, to break something, but I just sat there, trembling, staring at her. I saw the flicker of tears, but beneath that there was something else, something cold and empty. I felt my jaw tight. The world around me blurred, and all I could think was, how do I even begin to fix this? Or do I even want to? The room felt too small, too suffocating. I looked at her and I saw the woman I loved, now a stranger. For the first time I questioned everything. Was I ever really loved? Did she ever care? Or was I just a placeholder? A fool who built a life around someone who was always hiding something. And that's when I knew I couldn't let this slide. Not anymore. Not after tonight. I needed a plan, a way to make her feel what she'd done to me. I had to find out how deep this really went and if Mark was just the beginning. But most importantly, I needed to figure out how to take control of this mess before it consumed me whole. Because if I let it, I might lose everything, including my dignity. The night after the discovery, I sat alone in my dimly lit house, the silence deafening. I looked at the evidence I'd gathered, screenshots of their messages, her jewelry hidden under the bed, the scent of her perfume lingering in the air. I realized I'd never felt this cold in my life. It was as if I'd been handed a broken mirror, shattered, reflecting a version of myself I didn't recognize. And somewhere deep down, I knew I was about to do something I'd regret. But at that moment, it felt like the only way to reclaim whatever was left of my dignity. I didn't want to just walk away and forget about her. No, I needed to make her regret it. I needed to show her that messing with my trust had consequences. That's when the plan started forming, simple, cold, calculated. I'd make her see what she threw away, and I'd do it in a way that she wouldn't forget. So that's where I am now, standing at the edge, looking down at what's next. If you're dealing with betrayal like this, trust me, it's not just about revenge. It's about finding out who you really are once everything you trusted is shattered. And believe me, when the time comes, I won't be the one feeling small anymore. The more I sat there in that dimly lit house, the more I realized I couldn't just confront her and expect the dust to settle. No, I needed something more, something calculated, something that would make her understand she'd crossed a line so far it couldn't just be forgiven. I started piecing together my plan, and from the moment I decided to act, everything felt different. I was no longer just hurt. I was angry, burning with a quiet, simmering rage that I couldn't ignore. First, I needed proof, real, undeniable proof that would make her realize I wasn't just some fool to be brushed aside. I had to be meticulous. I recalled that she'd been sneaking around with her phone, hiding messages, deleting texts after she thought I wasn't looking. I'd seen her do it more than once. So I decided to install a simple, discreet app on her phone. Nothing fancy, just enough to monitor her activity. It wasn't about snooping for fun. It was about gathering the evidence I needed to make her understand the gravity of what she'd done. The first time I accessed her phone after installing the app, I felt a strange mix of anticipation and disgust. The screen lit up with notifications, messages from Mark, images she'd sent him, even plans for their next meetup. I blinked back the nausea, trying to stay focused. She'd been lying to me for over a year. That's a long damn time to keep something like this hidden. I scrolled through her texts, each one more nauseating than the last, and felt my jaw clench. I knew I'd find a way to turn this around. I wasn't just going to confront her and hope for some kind of apology. No, I was going to show her that I knew everything and that she couldn't keep lying anymore. I decided I'd wait for the right moment, an evening when she'd be relaxed, maybe after she returned from work. I'd bring the evidence out in front of her, let her see that I wasn't just some naive husband blindsided by betrayal. I wanted her to understand that I'd seen every message, every sneaky glance, every lie she'd told. She needed to face the reality that she'd destroyed trust, and I was about to make her understand the consequences. But I wasn't going to stop there. That's when I started planning the next step, something I'd call my reality check. I wasn't going to let her walk away from this unscathed. No, I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal. I didn't care if it hurt her, she'd hurt me enough. I wanted her to realize she'd made her choice, and I'd be there to remind her every step of the way. The morning after I installed the app, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I was cold, focused. I knew I had the power now, and I wasn't going to let it slip away. I brewed a strong cup of coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and pulled out her phone. I went through her messages, scrolling past the superficial stuff, looking for the ones that cut the deepest. When I finally had enough, I knew I was ready. Later that evening, I set the stage. I told her I needed to talk about us, our future, trust, everything. She looked nervous, I could see it in her eyes. I laid the phone on the table, pushed it toward her, and said, "You need to see something." Watching her reaction was almost better than I'd expected, her face turning white, her hands trembling as she saw the flood of messages between her and Mark. Her eyes darted around, searching for something to say. "I thought I loved you," she whispered, voice cracking. "This isn't what it looks like." "Oh, I think it is," I said, voice cold and steady. "You lied to me every day for over a year. You thought I wouldn't find out, but I did. And now the game's over." She looked like she wanted to crawl into herself, but I pressed on. "I've got plans, Lisa. Plans that will make you regret ever crossing me. Because I don't do betrayal kindly. You're about to see what real consequences look like." Her eyes welled with tears, but I was past feeling sympathy. All I could feel was the hollow ache in my chest and the fierce resolve to make her understand she'd lost her safe harbor, me. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming whatever shred of dignity I had left. I left her sitting there, trembling, with that evidence staring back at her. I knew I had her cornered now. The pieces were in place, and I was about to execute the final move. The next few days would tell whether I was going to be the one rebuilding or the one breaking her completely. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through every detail of what was to come. I could already feel the weight lifting, a sense of control returning. I knew she'd try to deny, to beg, to lie her way out of it. But I had everything I needed: proof, a plan, and the cold determination to see it through. No more secrets, no more lies. Just me, finally taking back what's mine. If she thought I'd just walk away quietly, she was dead wrong. I'd make sure she never forget what she threw away, and I'd do it without breaking a single rule, just enough to make her realize she was finally at the mercy of her own choices. The days that followed were a blur of tense silence and careful planning. I kept the evidence hidden, but I wasn't about to let her off the hook, not yet. Every time I saw her, I felt this cold fury simmering just beneath the surface. I could tell she was trying to act normal, but her eyes betrayed her. She'd catch me looking, and those moments were like a shot to the chest. She knew I had her cornered now, and I wasn't planning on letting her forget it anytime soon. I spent hours mapping out my next move. I wanted her to feel the weight of everything she'd done, not just that night, but over the past year. That meant more than just showing her the texts. I needed her to see the full scope of her betrayal, how deep it ran and how much she'd lied. I started gathering more physical evidence: her jewelry she'd hidden in the laundry, her receipts from places she claimed she never visited. Each new find made my resolve stronger. One evening I confronted her again. I sat her down in the kitchen, her face pale, hands trembling. The room was thick with unsaid words and unspoken tension. I laid out the evidence I'd collected slowly, deliberately, watching her reactions. "You've been lying to me for over a year," I said calmly but with a sharp edge. "You think I don't see it, that I don't notice the little things, the secret nights, the hidden messages, the way you dodge my questions." Her voice broke. "Please, it wasn't what it looked like. I was confused. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "You didn't mean for it," I cut her off. "You slept with Mark, didn't you? You've been sleeping with him, and you lied every step of the way." I pushed the phone across the table. "Look at this. How many times did you see him? Did you even care how I'd feel?" She looked down, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't want to hurt you. I thought I was just having a mistake, a fling." "It meant nothing, I swear," I scoffed. "Nothing. That's the best you can come up with. You lied to me, abandoned everything we had, and you think a swear is enough to fix this." Her shoulders sagged. "I was stupid. I was lonely, and Mark made me feel alive again. I didn't want to lose everything." "That's bullshit," I snapped. "You lost me the minute you decided to betray me, and I'm not some fool who's going to forgive that overnight." She looked like she wanted to crawl into herself. The guilt and shame were written all over her face. But I wasn't done, not yet. I needed her to feel the full force of her actions, so I told her about my plan. "You should know," I said, voice low and steady, "I've been planning something that'll make you think twice before ever doing this again. You think you're the only one who can cheat and get away with it. No, not anymore." Her eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" I leaned in. "You'll see. I've got a few surprises lined up. All I want is for you to understand the damage you've done. And if you think you can just walk away, I'll make sure you see what's left of us, what's left of you after I'm done." The next day I started executing the plan. I knew she'd come home from work expecting everything to be normal. Little did she know, I'd set things in motion that she wouldn't see coming. I'd arranged for her to find a letter, nothing fancy, just enough to make her realize that I knew every lie, every secret, and that I was done playing nice. It was time she felt the cold, sharp truth of betrayal. I hid the letter in her favorite book on the shelf where she'd see it the moment she sat down. The note was simple: "Trust is gone, you made your choice. Now you'll see the consequences." Nothing more. I wanted her to understand that I was serious and that I was about to turn the tables. When she found it, her face turned ghostly white. Her hands trembled as she read the words, and I watched her closely. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes, but this time I saw something else: fear. Real, raw fear that she'd pushed me too far, that she'd lost her safety net. "Did you really think I wouldn't do anything?" I asked, voice cold. She couldn't answer. Instead, she just nodded, eyes pleading. That's when I knew I had her right where I wanted her. The game was on, and she was about to realize that betrayal comes with a price, one she'd never forget. I stepped back, watching her crumble a little more. My stomach twisted with a strange mixture of satisfaction and emptiness. I'd made her face her own lies, and I was about to make sure she remembered it forever. The power shift was happening, and I could taste it in the air. I just hoped she'd recognize that I was done being the fool, because the next move was going to change everything, whether she liked it or not. The moment she saw the note, everything in her body stiffened. She sat at the edge of the couch, clutching the paper as if it might vanish if she let go. Her breathing was ragged, her eyes flickering between the words and my face. I could see the panic setting in, the kind that makes your stomach clench and your mind race. She knew I'd played my hand and I wanted her to feel every second of it. "You really went this far?" she asked, voice trembling, eyes shining with tears. "You're serious?" I crossed my arms and leaned against the kitchen counter, watching her unravel. "Dead serious," I said. "You lied, you cheated, and now you're going to see the consequences. It's not just about the affair anymore. It's about respect, something you clearly lost." She looked down at her hands. "I never wanted to hurt you like this. I didn't think it would go this far." "Exactly," I snapped. "You didn't think that's the whole problem. You thought you could keep lying, sneaking around, and I'd never figure it out. Well, guess what? I did, and now you're going to listen." She finally looked up, tears streaming down her face. "So what now? Are you leaving me, or—" "Oh, I'm not leaving just yet," I interrupted. "I want you to understand what you've done. I want you to see that trust, once broken, can't just be glued back together with a simple sorry." I paused, feeling the weight of my own words. "And I've got some plans, Lisa, plans that will make it clear you're not the only one who's hurt here." Her eyes widened. "What do you mean?" I took a step closer, voice low and deliberate. "You're about to see how far I'm willing to go. I've already started making arrangements. You'll find out soon enough that I've been preparing something that will shake you to your core, something that'll make you think twice before ever doing this again." Her lips trembled. "You're serious?" "More than serious," I said. "Because I want you to realize that betrayal has consequences, and I'm the one who's going to deliver them. Not violence, not shouting, just something cold, calculated, and unforgettable." I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. "This is a little reminder, just enough to make you understand that I'm done playing nice." She looked at it, then at me, confusion and fear mixing in her eyes. "What is it?" I handed it to her. "Read it, and remember, I'm serious. I'm not just going to walk away from this. I'm going to make sure you regret ever crossing me." She hesitated, then unfolded the paper. Her eyes darted across the words. I watched her face tighten as she read, the realization sinking in. Her breath hitched. Then she looked up again, eyes pleading. "Please," she whispered. "Don't do anything crazy. I'll change, I swear. Just don't." "Don't what?" I cut her off. "Don't make me do something I'll regret." "Sorry, Lisa. That ship sailed when you decided to sleep with Mark." Her shoulders sagged, and I could see she was on the verge of breaking completely. That's when I knew I had her right where I wanted. The power was shifting, and I was about to use it. This was just the beginning. I decided to give her a moment to process, then left the room. I needed to prepare for what was next. The plan I'd cooked up was much bigger than her tears and apologies. It was about making her see her actions from a new perspective, by showing her that I was no longer the fool she thought I was. That I was capable of making her feel the same pain she'd inflicted on me, but in a way she'd never forget. Later that night, I sat alone, in the dark, feeling a strange mixture of satisfaction and dread. I knew I was about to turn everything upside down. I could almost taste the anticipation of her realizing that her lies had consequences she couldn't escape. I had taken the first step, and now the real game was about to begin. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Whatever she did next, I was ready, because I wasn't going to let her get away with this. Not anymore. The following days were like walking on a tightrope. I kept my cool, played the part of the hurt but composed husband. Inside, though, I was brewing something cold and calculated. Every time I saw her, I felt a sharp thrill, part anger, part satisfaction. She was beginning to realize that I wasn't the same naive man she'd been stringing along. I'd spent hours planning the next move, making sure everything was airtight. I knew she'd probably try to deny everything, maybe even plead for mercy. That's why I prepared. I set up a few more pieces to drop in her lap, each designed to break down her defenses even further. I made sure she'd find some of the evidence I'd hidden, more photographs, a few receipts from Mark's house, and some messages I'd saved, all carefully arranged to make the truth impossible to ignore. One evening I came home earlier than usual. I wanted to catch her off guard, see how she'd react when she realized I was serious. She was in the kitchen, humming softly, trying to pretend everything was fine. As I entered, I held out a small device, a flash drive. Her eyes flickered with suspicion. "Check this out," I said calmly, dropping the drive onto the table. "It's all the proof you need. Every message, every lie, every secret you tried to hide, it's all here. Her face drained of color. "You went through my stuff," she stammered, trying to hide her panic. "No," I said. "I installed a little program. It's called Being Careful. I wanted to see what you were hiding. Now you can tell me, how long has this been going on?" She swallowed hard. "A few months." "I swear I never meant for it to go this far." "Months," I echoed, voice steady. "That's longer than I thought, and all this time I was trusting you, believing you loved me." She looked down at her hands. "I was so lonely. Mark made me feel alive again. I didn't think it would get this complicated." I felt my jaw tight. It's not just about feeling alive. It's about lying, about betraying everything we built. And honestly, I don't know if I can forgive that. Her eyes filled with tears. "Please," she begged. "I love you. I made a mistake. I'll do anything. Just don't throw everything away." I shook my head slowly. "That's the thing. I've already made up my mind. You see, I've been planning something that'll make sure you understand exactly what you lost." She looked confused, trembling. "What are you planning?" I leaned in, voice cold and deliberate. "You're about to find out. I've set some things in motion. Things that will make you realize this isn't just about the affair. It's about respect, honesty, and trust. And you threw all that away." Her expression faltered. "Please." "Save it," I interrupted sharply. "You had your chances to come clean. Now it's my turn to show you what's coming." I watched her face fall apart as I revealed my next step, a plan that would make her see her actions in a new light. It wasn't about revenge for revenge's sake. It was about forcing her to face the reality of what she'd destroyed. I'd staged a little setup, nothing illegal, just enough to make her realize she was not going to get away easy. That evening, I left a carefully crafted message on her phone, something she'd find after I was gone. It was simple, direct, and designed to hit where it hurt. It read, "You lost me a long time ago, Lisa. Now I'm just making sure you never forget what you did." I set it to play at a specific time so she'd find it when she least expected. I watched her find it the next morning. Her face went pale, eyes wide with shock and fear. She looked at me, trying to plead, but I was already walking away, leaving her alone with her unraveling world. That was the moment she realized I wasn't just angry. I was deliberate, patient, and serious about making her feel every ounce of betrayal she'd inflicted. The days after that were tense. She kept trying to talk, to apologize, to explain, but I'd heard enough. I had all I needed, the evidence, the plan, her fear. The final move was coming, and I knew exactly how to execute it. I wasn't going to just walk away from this. No, I was going to make sure she understood that her choices had consequences, and that I was capable of making her regret every lie. I kept my calm, let her dig her own grave with her words. When the moment was right, I'd hand her the final piece, something that would seal her fate and force her to face the truth. And once I did that, there'd be no turning back. Because at the end of it all, I realized something. Betrayal doesn't just hurt. It reveals who you really are. And I wasn't going to let her hide behind her lies anymore. The day finally arrived when I decided enough was enough. I'd spent the last week meticulously orchestrating everything, and I knew I had her cornered. That morning, I handed her a sealed envelope. Nothing elaborate, just plain paper, but inside was the final, irreversible step. It was her goodbye, divorce papers. I wanted her to realize that her betrayal had shattered more than just our marriage. It had broken any trust I might have still harbored. She looked at me with wide, tear-filled eyes. "You're really doing this?" I nodded, feeling the weight of every emotion compressed into a single moment. "Yeah, I told you I was done. You chose him over us." Her trembling hands reached for the papers. "Please don't do this. We can fix it. I'll leave Mark. I swear I'll do anything." But her pleas sounded hollow. I'd already made up my mind. And honestly, I didn't want apologies or promises anymore. I wanted her to see that her actions had consequences. I wanted her to feel the cold reality that the life she thought she could rebuild was already gone. "Look," I said, voice steady now. "I hope you understand. This isn't just about ending our marriage. It's about you finally realizing what betrayal costs. You lost me, Lisa, and I won't be coming back from this." She clutched the papers, eyes trembling, voice barely whispering. "You're right, I lost everything. I was stupid and I regret it, but give me a chance to fix this, please." I shook my head slowly. "It's too late for that. You made your bed. I'm not going to be the fool who keeps giving chances when all I get are lies. I'm done pretending I didn't see who you really are." She broke down then, sobbing uncontrollably, her face streaked with tears and shame. I turned away, feeling a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd finally taken control. I'd chosen to walk away from the wreckage she left behind, and in doing so I reclaimed my dignity. Before I left, I handed her one last thing, my key to the house. "You won't need this anymore," I said quietly. "It's over. I'll be moving out today, and I suggest you do the same." She looked at me, defeated, as I gathered my belongings and walked out the door. The house, once filled with laughter and warmth, now felt hollow and silent. The echo of her tears followed me as I closed the door behind me, sealing the chapter of the betrayal forever. Standing outside, I took a deep breath and looked back at the empty house. For the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of clarity. I'd lost someone I loved, yes, but I'd gained something else: freedom. The freedom to rebuild, to trust again in myself, and to remember that even in heartbreak there's strength. As I drove away, I knew this was the end of my story with Lisa. And honestly, I felt lighter. Not because I wanted revenge, because I wanted to reclaim my life. I realized that sometimes the greatest act of strength is walking away from the chaos and choosing yourself. The lesson I learned: betrayal cuts deep, but it also reveals who you really are. And if you're ever faced with it, don't be afraid to stand tall, face the truth, and do what's necessary. Because in the end, the only person you truly owe honesty to is yourself.